Perfect. All right, everybody. We have Joe Cassavaugh here. He's already streamed today, but this is the new stream, so I'm getting him to reintroduce himself.
I am Joe Cassavaugh of PuzzlebyJoe. I am arguably the most successful solo indie dev from Atlanta, Georgia. In Atlanta, Georgia.
All right, let's go after this solo dev part right off the bat. So if you saw Joe's presentation, you saw him say that you need to go deep, not broad. He said that by focusing on one skill was like compound interest, and spreading your skills out was like simple interest for simpletons. However, Joe, as a solo developer, you have to do audio, coding, design, UX, UI, social media. I wish he did the voiceovers, but there are no voiceovers in Clutter yet. He does the writing. You have to go as broad. Remember that kitchen sink? I should have just had that, put that behind us. You have to be the kitchen sink of development.
Yes and no, but I go deep with Clutter itself. I have one game in one environment where I do all my experiments. I've always been deep as a programmer. Over the years, I've gotten deep enough to do my own UX and UI. And as for music and sound, that comes off of Artlist.io. In fact, it was really nice when I found Artlist.io a couple years ago because they're much better than the stuff I was getting off of Partners in Rhyme. So I don't do my own music or anything. And I made a game that the point of the game was let's make it addicting regardless of how ugly it is. So the addicting part of it, of how to make an addictive level, that's where I go deep.
So if you're in chat, tell Joe he needs to do VO, his own VO for the Clutter series.
I used my son for the only voiceover ever in Clutter, which was Leon Poncelet welcomes you to Declutter for Live.
Now you see why I had his son do that and not him. So it was fun. One of the things that you talked about in there were your CFG files, your config files. And I've been thinking more and more that we probably need to do a presentation on the power of CFG files, because I talk to folks who work in just Unity or just Unreal, and they don't have any idea what CFG files even offer. So I assume that's something you've been doing all along.
Sure, but they would use JSON if they wanted to do that. The bigger topic is what is just data-driven design, where instead of putting it in code somewhere, you want to put it in a flat file that's easy to manipulate. And there's a lot to do. So I'm going to go way, way, way back. I was very anti-Windows way back in the day. But there's the old debate is what's better, a WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get kind of tool, or a flat system like Unix, Corn Shell, that type of stuff. And the thing is, they're different. One lets anybody do it. You can be an idiot and use Windows. And one gives you more power if you can master it. And that's the way it is with the CFG files. If, in fact, you can create your own little language like I did, and they're very, very powerful. I can look at 100 levels all at once. And if that was within code, that'd be kind of annoying in a different way. But it gives you a level of indirection that you want. You never want to hard code your specification of anything. So that has to go somewhere, so it better go in a flat file. I don't even like JSON because it does too much. And I already had a system where I knew I could read from flat files and I knew how config files work, that I'd rather did that than some of the things that JSON buys you. Now, I could be wrong. I think if I dove into JSON, I might be able to figure out some overrides. But one of the tricks I do, I keep the player preference. The player preference is the config file. But that config file lives in player preference. It's a Unity player preference. And what I do is I have a special flag that says, oh, you're not really coming from a file, but act like you are after you've gotten your one huge player preference out. So it keeps it using Unity's player preferences, but then it treats it like a config file.
So I don't think players can access your config files directly.
They can find them.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, so we definitely put them out there in Emperor of the Fading Suns because we want folks to mod that like mad.
Right. In my old system, under iWin and stuff, they were encrypted. You couldn't access them directly. But under mine, I don't see any need for encryption. If somebody played around with them, they'd be in Unity, they're inside. They're inside a resource, so they can't get to them. So it is actually as good as encrypted. So they can't get to them.
I was going to say, if they can finally get to your config files, they should play around. That's one of the best ways to learn the very basics of game dev is by playing with configs.
Correct.
So if you get the configs in any of your games, start playing around with them. So we took a good look at what you've done, Joe, in the last presentation. But what's coming?
What's coming, which I almost talked about, is I'm sick of telling stories, even though some of my customers that like the stories, it's a small percentage. I'm going to try to keep them happy by putting little like soapboxes and little story snippets in the help file only, not within the game. And I'm changing. My next game is going to be, it's a Clutter puzzle magazine. And the very first edition is going to be a Christmas/holiday spectacular. And then I want to get out a Clutter puzzle magazine every 3 months. It's going to be a quarterly. And I believe I can pull that off. And if I do that, I'll make a little more money. But I'll also get out, it'll be removing the grind of telling the story, which the story's not a grind, but the process to get it right enough is it's just too wearing. And I'm done. The last 3 were sort of self-helpish, and I'm kind of done. I've said what I want to the customers or the fans or whatever, and I'm just done. I don't want to do it, but I'll definitely, it'll be almost like a Christmas letters people used to write. What's going on, what's coming next. And it'll be a little bit like Stan Lee's soapbox in Marvel days.
True believers.
Yeah, I get a lot of my ideas from the old Marvel comics. One of the things I did for a while.
Forbush man, any day in Clutter.
Well, in Clutter, at the end of the game, I often told them what the next game was going to be. And early on, I was rarely right. I would often, just like Marvel would do, Marvel would go, up next, Worlds Collide. Next month, Worlds Collide. And next month would be Titans Clash. Wait a second, what happened to Worlds Collide? And I've done that to them. There was the Clutter calendar caper that never got made. I've talked about puzzle diamonds, Clutter Diamonds, a Peter Zell mystery now that never got made. And I'm sure there's at least one other title that I told them was coming that never got made. And Clutter 7, Back to the Attic, the Lost Clutter.
So one of the things that I think that Stan Lee did incredibly was introducing the no prize.
Oh, right.
So you found something wrong in continuity or some little nitpicky thing, and then you only got the no prize if you explained what was actually going on.
No, that's actually really good, because I do have customers that catch the bugs, and I really should highlight them. One Clutter many years ago, I actually I don't do beta anymore. I do a prepaid early access beta where they're paying for the whole game, and the games, because they're better. Under Unity, I was able to put a tighter game out there quicker without worrying I'm going to have super bugs. Under the old ways, I'd want a few people to bang on it to catch some stuff. And one of the first times I did it, I asked everybody that was a beta tester to send me a photo and whether I could use their name and so forth. So I actually had a screenshot rewarding the beta. They got their pitch. After people make fun of me for putting my face in the game, I rewarded the beta players by letting them put their face in the game. So.
Excellent. So remember, if you want to see the Christmas edition, I really think he's just trying to do what the Beatles used to do. They used to release an annual Christmas album. So I think Joe is, again, trying to do all things. He'll be all 4 Beatles at once, creating his Christmas album for you.
Yeah, I'm going to use an AI version of the guy who created Jewel Quest and have him work on the game with me. So.
Excellent. All right, so look for that at puzzlesbyjoe.com. Thank you, Joe. Great presentation today. Good stuff.
Thanks for having me at SimFest again. Number 7. Woo!
Hey. All right.